Welcome back to a special All-Star edition of the Stretch the Floor podcast. I'm Matt, and I'm here with Venush, and somehow we have made it to the All-Star break. We're almost there. Um, Sometimes during the season, it didn't look like we were going to get there, but the NBA has cracked down on some of the COVID protocols, and we've had less players missing games lately, and it looks like we're actually on our way to actually finishing this season. And one of the most fun parts to talk about of every NBA season is the All-Star game and the All-Star teams. Now, who knows what's going to happen with this game? It sounds like it's actually going to happen, which, as we talked about, is a terrible idea. But the most fun part of All-Star is the All-Star teams and the selection and the fan voting and all that stuff. So we're going to get into our picks for that. Starters, off the bench, all that stuff, front court guards, all that stuff. We're going to break it down. I don't know your team. You don't know my team. I say let's just get right into it. Do you want to start with the East?
Yeah, let's start with the easy conference, the East.
All right.
And what are your five starters?
All right, so my five starters, the front court, there's no argument about the front court. It's Durant, Embiid, Giannis, no question
Yeah,
there.
same.
And the guards, I feel like we might have a little bit of disagreement. I have Bradley Beal and Jalen Brown.
Okay, so I have Bradley Beal and James Harden.
Okay.
So Bradley Beal kind of getting the votes from kind of last year as well, but he's
Yeah.
basically the top leading scorer in the league. He's going to make the All-Star game. He's probably going to be the starter because a lot of people are voting for him in. And yeah, he's pretty much a lock to start.
Yeah.
Uh, the front court, we don't even need to talk about them. Like Kevin Durant, MVP candidate. Giannis, the Bucks are second in the East. He's by far the best player on the Bucks. Joel Embiid, the Sixers are first in the East. He's by far the best player, and he's
Another
probably the
MVP
MVP
candidate. Yeah.
favorite. Yeah. So those guys are kind of locks. So let's go to James Harden versus Jalen Brown. Obviously, you're gonna have James
Okay.
Harden on the bench. I'm gonna have Jalen Brown on the bench. One reason why James Harden is gonna start is at the end of the day, fan voting. Jalen Brown is not gonna have enough. It's not gonna
Yeah.
be
I
even
agree with that.
comparable.
Yeah.
And I think he does deserve to start because he is leading the league in assists, 11 or what's it, almost more than 11 now per game. He's still averaging 25 points. He's putting up crazy numbers. It's just he's James Harden and he always puts up crazy numbers and his points have taken a huge drop off from last year, but he's still a 25 plus scorer with 11 assists. Like
Yeah.
that's an all-star starter.
Yeah. Now, you might be expecting me to go on some huge anti James Harden rant or something like that, but simply the only reason James Harden isn't a starter for me is because he's played 14 games in the Eastern Conference. And for two players that are the type of year Jalen Brown is having, uh, he is, to me, that's pretty much the tiebreaker. James Harden has played 14 games in the East. He played a few games in the West. And Jalen Brown has played like 25, 26 games in the Eastern Conference. For me, that is simply the only reason he's ahead of James Harden.
Yeah, that's not up to James Harden though. It's not like I think we should count his West games for like the Eastern consideration as well.
I
So
guess.
yeah, that's why I gave him the nod. But I guess we
But
can move to our
well, just quickly on Harden, like you said,
yeah.
I mean, our initial reactions to that Harden trade to the Nets was, man, if James Harden can just play point guard, score a few less points, take a few
Yeah.
less shots, average 11, 12 assists, who knows what this team could be and who knows how good he could be. That's exactly what he's doing. Even just the other night, the cameras caught Kyrie telling Harden, "You're the point guard now. I'm the shooting guard." I love what I'm seeing from Harden. This is like my favorite season to watch him in probably ever. And yeah, he is his like you said, he is going to be the All-Star starter, deservedly so with his play. Just for me, the way I looked at it, I was like, Jalen Brown has just played more games, and that just earns him the spot for me.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense too because the Nets probably shouldn't have two all-star starters the way they're
Yeah,
performing. And it's probably good that the Celtics, who are, correct me if I'm wrong, the fourth seed right now, they should probably at least have one all-star starter. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But at the end of the day, fan voting is a thing. It's gonna be between Harden or Kyrie for that second guard spot. And
well,
Harden deserves it more than Kyrie. And Jalen
it's
Brown's just not even in the conversation because of the fans.
it's half fan voting and half like journalists, and we all know journalists love Jalen Brown more than James Harden and Kyrie. So I wouldn't be
Yeah,
shocked if he got in there, but the
I
fan
would
voting
be
might be
shocked.
such a big difference
Yeah.
that just doesn't matter.
Yeah, the fan voting is going to be such a big difference where unless the journalists just completely like hate on Harden, which they
Yeah,
really don't,
yeah,
it's going to be pretty much a shock for me.
yeah. And I mean, I've heard a lot of people not having Beal in the starters. Some people saying he shouldn't be an All-Star lock. And I mean, yeah, the Wizards are the worst team in the East. But Bradley Beal is averaging 33 points a game, good efficiency. My argument is that the Wizards are 7-17 right now. They'd be 0-24 if Bradley Beal was not on the roster. So
Yeah, like at the end of the day, like it's not even like a conversation to have because he's getting it. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
some fans just don't like him because they know a couple players are gonna get snubbed from their favorite team. You know, like if they like, hey, this guy is not contributing to winning at all, while my team's in the fifth seed or sixth seed, and we don't
yeah,
even have an all star. Like, how is that fair? Like, clearly, points and statistics and everything. If this guy is able to go to a sixth seed, and it's kind of just like fans that are kind of like rooting for their guys, so they have to bring someone down.
yeah,
And it sucks that, yeah, some playoff contending teams aren't going to have all stars, but the statistics are just too big of a
yeah,
discrepancy for them to get an over Bradley Beal. And this year, with COVID and everything, and players going in and out of lineups, like how much can we really base like record off of? Especially when like the second seed and like the eighth seed are like differential by like 4 games. Like it's so close.
yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think Bradley Beal's a lock.
Oh, I think he's a lock too. 33 points is 33 points.
Yeah,
He's leading the league in scoring. And like you said, he's getting votes from last year and this year.
yeah,
In my opinion, he's a lock. So, okay, so should we go on to let's go on to the two guards behind Beal and
yeah,
so you have Brown as one of your backup guards.
yeah. And you have Harden as
I
one
have
of your
Harden.
backup guards,
Yeah.
and my other backup guard is Kyrie Irving.
Kyrie Irving. Yeah. Kyrie Irving's
Yeah,
a 28-6 guy this year. And his so he is a 52-41-95 guy this year. I mean, he's kind of been overlooked his number just because of that like 2 week random absence
absence.
that he had. But I mean, his numbers are just ridiculous. Like a lot of nights, he's the best player on the Nets. They obviously take turns, but I mean, you just can't argue with these numbers.
Yeah, if that was like a 2 week injury rather than
Yeah,
an absence,
exactly.
everything would be perfect. But since it was an absence, people are trying to hate on him. But I think when the coaches look at the statistics, look at the game plan, because like they have to game plan for Kyrie Irving every time they play.
Yeah,
They know his impact. They're gonna be like, man, even though this guy is annoying, it's kind of hard to deal with. He's still an all-star player, and I think they won't give him the nod to get in there. But Kyrie Irving, like I would be shocked if he plays in this game. Like I'm like almost 99% sure that he will sit out this game. He won't care about like the all-star contribution to his career and how like it impacts his career if he sits out or stuff like that. Like Kyrie Irving is probably going to sit out this game, and one person will probably get promoted. But Kyrie Irving is getting selected in by the coaches just so he can sit out.
yeah. Interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't the only one who sits out.
Yeah,
Like we said, this game shouldn't even be happening. But yeah, as of now, Kyrie Irving is an all-star selection, and let's see if he actually plays. All right, so let's go to the other
front court.
three front court players. Mine are Jason Tatum, Domantas Sabonis, and Bam Adebayo.
Okay, so I have Sabonis and Tatum.
Okay,
I do not have Bam. I have Chris Middleton instead. And the
okay,
reason I have Chris Middleton is if you look at his stats this year, he's basically scoring at the same clip as he was last year,
mm-hmm.
but now he's got the playmaking incorporated into it as well. They're the second seed in the East, and he's a big contributor to that. This is not like a full team effort like it was last year. It's kind of more of a 1, 2, 3 with Giannis, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, and I just think he has to be an all-star for that contributions.
Yeah, see that spot for me came down to either Middleton, Bam, and like he wasn't ever going to get it, but Gordon Hayward, he's just having
Yeah,
such a good year. But to me, I completely agree with you on everything about Middleton. It's just Bam. He's kind of been the only consistent thing on Miami this entire year. Butler's been out. They've been destroyed by COVID and injuries, and I mean he's averaging a 29-5, which is really good, even better than last year.
yeah,
Being the defender that he is, being the just kind of the team player that he is, the efficiency. They run the offense through him when Jimmy's not there. Even when Jimmy is there, they run the offense through him. Now they have a pretty bad record. They're worse than
yeah,
a lot of pretty bad teams right now. So I probably that might be a point against him. But
mm,
I mean, I think it is hard to take that away from Middleton. That this is what I
yeah,
don't like about All Star. Like they're both All Star deserving caliber players.
yeah,
It's it's really a toss up, but you might be right about Middleton.
Yeah, the record is 16-11 for the Bucks versus 11-15.
Yeah,
And I know COVID had played a huge impact for the Heat, but at the end of the day, their stats are really comparable. 29-4 for Bam,
yeah,
20, 26-6 roughly for Chris Middleton. So they're
yeah,
comparable stats, comparable impact. They're both not the first option. Jimmy Butler's the first option for the Heat. Giannis is the first option for the Bucks. Jimmy Butler's not in this conversation because he missed so much time with COVID,
yeah.
and that's why the Heat are bad. But when the stats are comparable, when their roles are comparable, kind of like obviously Bam has a bigger impact on defense. So like everything is comparable. I'm just gonna give it to the team with a better record.
Yeah, and I do think that is what's going to happen. A lot of people, yeah, a lot of people are talking about Bam as an All Star, but I mean,
It's gonna be hard with
it's
that
yeah,
record.
it's going to be tough. Yeah, honestly. Okay, so we both have Tatum Sabonis, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, Tatum. I mean, the Celtics are surprisingly worse than we thought they would be this year, but Tatum is averaging 27 a game. He's their offense revolves around him. He he just keeps getting better every year, and he looks like to me this year he looks like one step below an MVP type of player.
really. I think this is a huge drop off for Tatum
Really.
because when I look at the Celtics, now it's a question mark who's the best player on the team. Like Jalen Brown, some
Yeah.
nights is
Is
like
that
by
because Jalen
far.
Brown is just unbelievable this year, or is it because Tatum has taken a step back, or maybe a bit of both?
I think it's a bit of both. I think Jalen Brown has kind of taken a huge step forward. He's now an
Yeah,
All Star lock, whereas last year he was like
yeah,
conversations for All Star. But Jason Tatum's not that guy. Like a month before the bubble, where he was averaging like 29 points on crazy efficiency, grabbing boards left, right, and center. Obviously, COVID has the part to play in this. He caught it. His conditioning
yeah,
was absolutely wrecked, and he had to work back into the conditioning. But I think he's done enough where like he's still an all-star player, but he has an excuse why he hasn't made that jump to MVP level. And I think near the end of the season, kind of like last year, when he gets his conditioning better, he gets this rest from the all-star break, like at least a
hmm
couple days, he should be back. His conditioning should be better, and he should
yeah.
be making a big improvement in the second half.
That is, I mean, yeah, that is fair. Jalen Brown, I mean, he's just so efficient.
Yeah,
He has shoots such a high volume. He takes so many shots, but he always just makes the right decision. You don't ever see him taking a bad shot. You can't really say the same about Tatum, but to be fair, like you just watch that team. Kemba has not been himself. Those two guys have kind of been the only positive players on the whole roster, and the defense just focuses in on Tatum every time he has the ball. He does not have an easy job this year. Maybe if they make a trade for like a Vucevic or some sort of thing with that exception, maybe the season gets better for him and he looks closer to that MVP type player. I didn't mean he was an MVP. I mean he's like you can see the makings of an MVP player in him, but he obviously still has to make that next step. But at this point, he is like never going to be worse than an All Star and probably going to be in the All Star starter conversation for a while.
yeah. That's why I said Tatum like took a step back, is because we expect him to be MVP level
That's fair. Yeah,
this year, and he didn't really like regress, but he just
yeah,
didn't make the jump that everyone expected him to take,
yeah,
because we expected the Celtics to be a number one or a number two seed,
yeah,
and it to be like, hey, this Tatum has become a 28 point scorer. Jalen Brown has improved to like 23, and these two guys are going off. Kemba was injured. He's coming back and healthy. No Gordon Hayward, no center really. With that timeshare between Thompson, where like Tatum was going to have that conversation and narrative. And they're just a 500 team. Yes, they're the
yeah,
fifth seed, but they're just a 500 team.
yeah,
And for us to put a 500 team to have two starters as like locks, I mean, two all stars as
yeah,
locks, is
yeah.
kind of crazy. And for us to put a three seed to have three starters is kind of crazy too. But the like it's just gonna happen. Like
It has to.
we don't think like it necessarily should happen. Maybe it should be spread out. But with the name presence and the impact they have on the game, we just know that it's
hmm
gonna happen.
Okay, so speaking of the one seed, do you is there a case for Ben Simmons as an All Star?
Yeah, I think he is an all-star and he is in my wild card. I think
Oh,
Ben
okay,
Simmons deserves to be
okay,
in that all-star conversation.
okay. So let's go into the wild card. So yours is Simmons and I'm gonna guess Trey Young.
Yeah, Simmons and Trey Young.
Okay, mine's Trey Young and Zach Levine. I had to give Zach Levine that All Star nod.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so I think the case for let's start with Simmons. I think the case for Simmons is kind of the Draymond Green All-Star selection. He's he's pretty close to averaging triple singles, not quite. He's averaging like a 14, what is it, 9 and 8 or something like that.
Yeah,
Pretty much he is he might be the best wing defender in the league. Like I think
he
he may have
is the
surpassed
best.
he surpassed
Yeah,
Kawhi. Kawhi is not the same, and we'll get to Kawhi in a minute. But yeah, he's the best wing defender in the league. People are kind of just like anointing him as the LeBron stopper in the finals this year, and he is taken. It doesn't look like he's ever going to become a 20-point scorer, but even if he just stays like this, he is like he's kind of just like a better playmaking Draymond Green, like
he's the
on the Warriors. It's
athletic
more
Draymond
athletic and
Green.
better playmaking Draymond Green.
Yeah, and I think his impact is so underrated because his weakness is so glaring.
Yeah.
Like it's obvious his shooting is bad. That's what everyone's going to talk about. That's what the media's going to talk about. But at the end of the day, the 76ers shoot such a better percentage with him on the court because he's able to make the game easy. And he's able to make the
Mm-hmm.
game easy both on offense and defense. And his impact is just so much bigger than a Zach LaVine on winning and like players like that because he's always made the playoffs. Like he's always a winning type player. He makes the players around him better, and he's just more than statistics. And I think he has to be in this All Star game.
Man, it's tough because like sometimes you look at the stats and if you didn't watch basketball, you're like Zach Levine's Ben Simmons. Like it's not even close. Zach Levine's an all
Yeah,
star over Ben Simmons. But I mean, I just love those players who don't put up the stats, who impact the defensive end, like you said, impact winning without necessarily dominating the box score. But with the way all stars are picked, I don't know, man. Zach Levine, he's averaging a 28, 5 and 5 on 52, 43, 86. So he's almost a 50, 40, 90 guy. He might he might be getting the Bradley Beal 2020 or
snub.
2019
Yeah,
treatment, and maybe if he does it again next year, he'll get that All Star nod. But I mean, even between him and Trey Young, like he's averaging better numbers than Trey Young.
yeah,
I'm
but
kind of surprised we both have Trey Young in there.
the Hawks, they have injuries. They have like injury. I guess the Bulls do too. With Trey Young, it's kind of just like his assist numbers and the way he plays is just so much more entertaining.
Yeah.
He's just like chucking threes, he's throwing lobs, he's like crossing people up,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just in the media more, so he gets pushed, I guess, more in the media. And if it's a toss up between Trey Young and Zach Levine, I can agree with either one. It's a one game difference, and they're only a point 0.5 back in the standings, so it's not like the Hawks are contending for a playoff spot while the
Yeah.
Bulls are bottom of the conference. Yeah, so Trey Young and Zach Levine, it could go between either one of them, and you really can't complain.
Yeah.
But I think Ben Simmons has to be the lock in the wild card contenders.
Well, Ben Simmons is like the case for Ben Simmons, like we talked about, is the Draymond Green All Star. But also, I don't remember the last time a one seed didn't have two All Stars,
Yeah,
right? So he probably will be. But I've heard a lot of people split. Like a lot, most people have Trey Young in there, and most people I've heard have Zach Levine in there. There's been a big push from the fans and from other players for Zach Levine. His team sucks, sure, but they're a little more fun than we kind of expected, and you can't really argue with 28, 5 and 5 on his efficiency. It's I don't know. It's kind of an all offense versus all defense. Not quite all defense, but all defense plus no offensive stats guy. It really is a toss up. It's gonna be interesting to see who gets in.
yeah. A player we both had in there, but we didn't talk about, which I hope doesn't get snubbed, is Sabonis,
Yeah.
because we mentioned Bam, we mentioned Trey Young and Zach Levine. Obviously, if Jalen Brown moves to a forward spot, then both of them could get in. And I just hope Sabonis isn't the loser in this situation
Mm,
because they're the fourth seed. They're above 500. They deserve an All Star. They missed TJ Warren. He went out with an injury. Jeremy Lamb missed a big part of the season with an injury. Victor Oladipo got traded. Uh, Karis LeVert, Victor Oladipo's replacement, has never played a game or a minute,
mm-hmm.
and they're still the fourth seed. They're still above 500. And when we have people who are below them, the Celtics having two All Stars, the the Nets having three All Stars who are a game and a half ahead of them, the Bucks having two All Stars who are 2 games ahead of them. I just hope Sabonis is like a lock, and coaches really just put him in there and don't go for the big names like Bam, Zach Levine. 'Cause I think Sabonis is the lock. And I think Sabonis is the lock. And coaches really just put him in there and don't go for the big names like Bam, Zach Levine. 'Cause I think Sabonis is the lock. And coaches really just put him in there and don't go for the big names like Bam, Zach Levine. Trae Young, and I really hope Sabonis makes this because obviously Indiana doesn't have the loudest fan base or the biggest fan base, and I think coaches might just be like, "Hey, we can get all these guys in. Sabonis is the one that misses out," which I hope doesn't happen.
Yeah, completely agree. Sabonis, I mean, the stats are good, the 21, 11 and a half, and then his on good efficiency. But yeah, like you said, 4 seed, best player on the team. The
By
offense
far.
revolves, or by far, the offense revolves around him. He has to be a lock in my opinion. He's more of a lock than even Tatum for me. I think
Yeah,
like he's
I
not going to
agree.
be just because of the fans and the way it works, but he has to be a lock even over Tatum.
Yeah, and Brogdon is probably going to be in that
Yeah,
like snub category because
yeah.
they're one of the only 4 seeds without two All Stars. But that makes sense. And yeah, like there's going to be a decent amount of snubs this year because people we haven't talked about is like Kyle Lowry, Julius
Mm-hmm.
Randle. You mentioned Gordon Hayward, but he's probably not going to
Gordon
get in.
Hayward. Yeah,
Yeah, Pascal Siakam, All-Star
yeah,
starter to not even in. Vucevic, someone that's not going to make it.
yeah.
Russell Westbrook. After how many years is Russell Westbrook not going to make an All-Star game? It's going to be pretty
Yeah,
surprising. I had
even
Bam out
like
of it.
this is going to be kind of like out of left field, but Terry Rozier, like the year Terry Rozier is having.
Yeah, Terry was just having a surprisingly good year where if this was like a year ago, maybe he would have been able to sneak into that wild
Yeah,
card conversation. And I think when you look at this, you're like, man, the East has surprisingly good talent for how bad their records are.
yeah,
Their talent is actually there.
yeah, man. Yeah, it's going to be weird. No Westbrook. I mean, Westbrook probably should not have been an All Star last year. He had just a ridiculous 2 week stretch before the All Star game
Yeah.
and eventually got in, but he was terrible before that. He's obviously not going to be one this year. But yeah, and Gordon Hayward, like I wanted to put him in so badly. He like really good numbers this year, really good efficiency. Both him and KD just coming off those injuries just became they were already good shooters, great shooters, just became ridiculous over 43% from three shooters, and he's the best player on a. I think they're what the 6 seed right now or 7 seed. The
Yeah, they're the
Hornets.
6 seed. They're above the Heat, which Bam's in the conversation. They're above the Hawks, where Trey Young's in the conversation, and they're above the Bulls, where Zach LaVine's in the conversation, and above the Knicks when Julius Randle's in the
Yeah.
conversation too.
So you want to talk about the best player on like a top 6 seed with the stats to go along? You could. I would not argue with you if you argued for Hayward over a guy like Zach LaVine or even like a Trey Young.
Yeah, so like the wild card could pretty much be a selection of a lot of people because even if
Yeah.
like Kyle Lowry makes it, I would be personally shocked, but
So
a
would
lot
I.
of Raptors fans wouldn't be shocked. So yeah, it's gonna be a very interesting last two spots.
Yeah. It's going to be the first time in a long time with no Raptors as All Stars. Pascal Siakam got off to a terrible start. He's actually been a lot better lately. Playing a lot more in the post, taking a lot less threes, a lot less low quality shots. Kyle Lowry is just always good. Fred VanVleet will score 54 one game and then 6 the next, and he's averaging like 20. But yeah, they don't quite make the cut. But here's hoping Siakam's back in the conversation next year.
Yeah, and what we were talking about how close it is the Raptors are on a 2 game losing streak. If they won both of those games, they would be tied for the fourth seed
Yeah.
with the Pacers. And we just talked about how the Pacers records are so impactful and how Sabonis should get in,
Yeah. Yeah.
where we're just completely shitting on the Raptors players because they're just 2 games behind. But yeah, that's what we're talking about. Why it's going to be so much controversy and it's going to be so close and there's going to be so much snubs is because the 4 seed is 14 and 13, while
Mm-hmm.
the 10th seed is 11 and 15. Like it's such a condensed year with everyone being so close.
Yeah.
It's just going to make a year for so many snubs. I'm surprised we even agreed this much. We only had two
So am I.
discrepancies.
I think we're gonna. I think it's time to go into the West because I think we're gonna disagree a little bit on the West.
Yeah,
Okay, so in my opinion, the two starting guards are locks. In my opinion,
yeah,
obviously Steph is one of them, and
yeah,
Dame I think has to be the other one.
yeah. I have Dame as the other one as well.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about who's actually going to start, Doncic is probably actually going to
Luca.
start over Dame. But we agree that Dame should start.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So okay, so quick on Steph, I think this is actually like a top 3 Steph Curry year of his whole career. I mean, you look at
yeah,
the numbers he's averaging with like the teams he's played on in the last 5-6 years, he's had Klay Thompson, he's had prime Draymond Green, he's had obviously KD. You look at the roster he's playing with this year, some Wiseman, he hasn't been there in a while. Wiggins, Oubre for what he's been just kind of offensively washed up. Draymond, uh, Juan Toscano Anderson is like one of the most reliable players on that team, and he's averaging like 30 points, shooting 43% from three. He has them in the 8 seed. This is going to be one of the most underrated, and I think one of the best Steph years of his entire career.
Yeah, to sum it up, he's basically putting up Beal-like stats
Yeah,
while being in the playoff contention and
that's
being
a
in the 8 seed.
that's a really good way to put it. Yeah,
Yeah. And I just want to also point out the 8 seed Warriors are 14 and 13, which is the same record as the fourth seed
4 seed
Indiana Pacers.
Indy. Yeah,
Yeah, so this is a lot better. The top 8 teams are performing much more like there's a bigger difference between the top 8 seeds and the non-playoff teams in the West. So I think you have to reward the winning. You have to reward the teams in the playoffs.
yeah,
And I think Steph is the sole reason for that. Obviously, Draymond Green is a good player. He has contributed to the playmaking, the motion
yeah,
offense,
yeah.
but it's obvious Steph is the best player night in, night out. He gets boxed and one almost every single game. He gets doubled, he gets tripled, and
Mm-hmm.
he's still putting up these stats. So he's a
Yeah,
lock.
absolute lock. And like, I mean, there was some even remember like the first 2 weeks of the season, there was some doubt. Can Steph carry the load like this by himself in the regular season? Everyone, including us, look stupid for even raising that question.
Questioning.
He's still like, I I had Giannis over him as like the best players in the league. I'm probably taking that back now. This guy is
Yeah.
averaging what the team that he has around him is averaging 30 on really good efficiency. Has this team in an 8 seed is just shocking, and it's going to be one of the biggest. This might be one of the biggest accomplishments of his career. Like forget about those unanimous MVPs.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know going about that far, or I forgot about those unanimous
No,
MVPs,
but I
but
mean like anyway, yeah,
this is definitely a top 3 season for him.
yep,
But talking about Dame, he has suffered quite a amount of injuries to his team. CJ McCollum out, Nurkic out, Robert Covington was out for a little while, not playing the same since. Zach Collins out, and
mm-hmm.
they're 16 and 10, comfortable in
Five
that
seed,
five seed, and he's shooting the ball lights out. He's getting boxed and one now since CJ's
mm-hmm.
out. His second most impactful player on offense is Carmelo Anthony, who was out of the league,
Yeah,
and
or Anthony Simons, the third year young player,
yeah,
whatever.
who showed
Yeah,
nothing in his first 2 years.
yeah,
So like he's just doing so much.
yeah.
And he's getting the best out of the players too. It's not just him going off. Like Gary Trent
Seven
Jr. is
assists a
playing
game.
better. Yeah. Not Zach Collins, Ennis Cantor. He's putting up decent rebounds and points.
Yeah.
So yeah, like he's just impacting winning on such a high level that he should be a starter. We
Mm-hmm.
know he's not going to be a starter due to fan voting,
Yeah.
but he is definitely a top 2 guard in the West.
Yeah. Like he's basically having 90% of Steph's year with like a
More winning.
25% better team
Yeah.
around him than Steph has, and with more winning. To me, that equals a top two All Star lock.
Yeah.
CJ was having the best year of his career. CJ was well on his way to having the first All Star appearance of his career.
Yeah.
It's a shame that he went down because like he is an All Star caliber player who's just somehow never cracked the All Star team, which is going to change this year. But yeah, Dame to me has to be an All Star lock. Like you said, Luka. Actually, should we go into the front court starters before we get on to Luka?
Yeah. Easy. I think the front court starters we're all going to
There's
agree
no
on.
question. Yeah.
It's LeBron, Kawhi, Jokic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No question. Yeah. In my opinion,
LeBron,
it should be if we're gonna get picky about orders, it should be LeBron, Jokic,
Jokic,
Kawhi.
Kawhi. Yeah.
But yeah, so we already kind of talked about Jokic a lot as in the MVP conversation, but he's averaging as a center a 26, 11, and 9, 56% from the field and 38% from three. The Nuggets aren't winning nearly enough, but you can't blame him at all. You can blame Jamal Murray, you can blame COVID, all that stuff. But yeah, Jokic is an top 3 MVP candidate, playing the best year by far of his career, one of the most fun players in the league to watch, and obviously he's a lock. Anything else you want to add to Jokic?
Like
Yeah,
LeBron and Jokic, they're number one. LeBron's MVP favorite,
yeah,
Embiid second, Jokic is third. So those two guys are locked. The Clippers, they're 20 and 8. third seed in the West. Kawhi Leonard's clearly shown he's the best player on that team, so he's
Mm-hmm.
a lock. Kawhi Leonard's low key having an MVP
Low key.
caliber season because he's not resting as much.
Yeah.
And we always said, hey, if Kawhi doesn't rest as much, he's going to be in that conversation. And if it wasn't for the slight injuries, obviously he had a leg contusion injury that he walked out recently, where he didn't play last game.
Mm-hmm.
He had that mouth insertion caused by a Serge Ibaka elbow, which made him miss a little bit of time as well. And then he obviously had contract tracing, so he is falling out of the MVP conversation due to those mishaps. But he's at least like top six, top five in the
He's
MVP
top
conversation.
five, top six. He's probably having the
Yeah,
quietest 27, 6, and 5 with 51% and 39% that I've ever seen.
yeah,
It's kind of crazy how we don't talk about him more. He just does it quietly. He's day in, day out. The Clippers are winning. I think they're a game or a half game back. The Lakers, they're currently in the third seed.
yeah,
Like they're, and then after Kawhi, we'll get to it in a minute, but there's just a huge drop off, in my opinion, to the rest of the front court all stars.
yeah,
But let's get to that after the guards. Let's go to both of us. I think agree the next guard up after Steph and Dame is Luka Doncic.
yeah.
So Luka, I mean, he started off the first kind of half of the of the season so far. He was shooting just terribly, like 22 or 28% from three or something like that. I forget. He was scoring a lot, obviously getting triple doubles almost every night. They weren't winning. They're still not really winning, but his efficiency really has come around. The last 10, he's averaging a 32, 7, and 9 with 49, 42, and 83 percentage slashes. So that's kind of better percentage efficiency that I've ever seen from him. He
Mhm.
has played himself into an all-star lock. He's obviously an all-star lock, but he's played himself into contention for a starting spot, and he has to be the third guy up.
Yeah, he is going to start due to fan votes, but we think Dame was better than him. But compared to everyone else, he's kind of in there. And the other guy that's with him on the bench, I think me and you both have him, is Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah,
And the reason Donovan Mitchell's there is because the record, first
that,
seed,
that's
and
it.
they're killing the league. Like
Yeah,
the way they're shooting, the way Donovan Mitchell's impacting games because Mccollum is injured and missing a little bit of time is is crazy. Like Donovan Mitchell has made a jump where he is in the MVP conversation, but with the conversation we mean like in the Kawhi realm, where he's not gonna win it. He's not in the LeBron and Embiid, Jokic type role, but he's in that top five
mm-hmm.
conversation with Curry, Kawhi, and himself. And he's just putting up crazy stats. He's improved from last year, and I just think like this has to be a lock.
Yeah. See, he's averaging like almost the exact same stats last year, but I do think he's made a huge jump. He got off to a really slow start from the field, efficiency wise. But you just watch that Jazz team and just he he's clearly the best player. But the way they move the ball, they just always find the open man. He doesn't dominate the ball like a Beal type or like even a Steph or Dame type. He just always makes the right decision, passes to the open man, like I said, attacks the rim when he needs to, and is just clearly the best player on a team that, like you said, is killing the rest of the league right now. He has to be an all-star lock.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say it's All Star luck because, as we always say, first seeds get two All
Yeah.
Stars, and yeah, they're gonna get two All Stars again. And I think with that we can maybe move to the
Wow.
forwards.
Okay, let's move to the forwards because I don't have Rudy Gobert as a
Oh
forward
wow.
starter. I'm surprised you do,
Okay.
but okay. So I think even though Anthony Davis is so mine are Anthony Davis, Paul George, and Brandon Ingram. Those are my all-star forwards. What about you?
Okay, so I have the same as you besides Brandon Ingram, replace him with Rudy Gobert.
Okay, yeah, I respect that. Okay, so Anthony Davis, like you said last episode, is not an MVP type player this year. He's just an all-star player. He's a 23-8 with 2 blocks. I mean, for Anthony Davis, that sounds like a terrible year. It's honestly one of the worst years of his career. But I think he kind of just has like a little bit of the championship slash bubble short turnaround hangover that somehow LeBron at age 36 is completely immune to.
Yeah,
Don't really understand that.
he's a robot.
But he's gonna come around. Yeah, he's gonna come around by the time the playoffs come. He's just gonna he has a little bit of an Achilles scare right now. He's
Yeah,
just gonna nurse that. He's gonna be the one load managing and not LeBron.
yeah.
But with the numbers he has, like he's not gonna be playing in this All-Star game, I don't expect. With the
Maybe
numbers that
like
he
two
has,
minutes.
Yeah, with the numbers that he has, even
He's
if
a
you just
lock.
forget about the drop off, he's a lock.
Yeah. And Paul George's efficiency,
Yeah,
like that's the only word we have to mention for
yeah,
Paul George this whole season, because his efficiency, like small usage players sometimes talk about his efficiency. Like Seth Curry is
yeah,
having a similar efficiency season,
yeah.
but the usage is like out of this
Night and
world for
day.
Paul
Yeah,
George. So like that efficiency is insane. And if Kawhi Leonard wasn't on this team, Paul George would be the favorite to win MVP.
yeah.
But since Kawhi Leonard's on the team and Kawhi Leonard's playing so well as well,
Mm-hmm.
they're taking the votes away from each other and they're going to kill the MVP talk between each other. Kind of how LeBron and AD did last year, and AD cost LeBron the championship. I mean, the MVP. He got him a championship, but he cost
Yeah,
him the MVP.
yeah.
So yeah, those two guys are lock. They're playing up to their standard. They're playing up to their level. And when you say Brandon Ingram, I didn't even have Brandon Ingram as a snub.
Wow.
The person
Really?
I had as a snub on the
24 a
Pelicans
game.
was Zion, who had uh, 23 points, and he's just going on a trend up. His efficiency is insane.
Yeah,
He's clearly the most focal point on the Pelicans when we see teams collapsing on him, teams doubling him, tripling him, teams leaving players wide open, making Hey Zion become a passer. I think that's clear. And the reason I have Rudy Gobert above both of them is because
mm-hmm.
winning.
Yeah,
We're talking about a first seed versus a team that's not even 500,
yeah,
11 and 15. We're talking about defense. There's a reason the Jazz are so good, and that's because of defense. And they don't have good defenders. Royce O'Neal is a positive defender. Joe Ingles is a positive defender. Bogdanovich is a huge negative defender. So like
yeah.
Rudy Gobert is
And
really changing that defense, and I think defense like he deserves that not just for that defense.
yeah, Rudy Gobert is kind of the king of not having any stats. Like you even look at his stats, you wouldn't be able to tell just the type of dominant defensive player that he is this year more than ever. Like screen assists, he leads the league in screen assists every year. Uh, he doesn't even get like as many blocks as he should because teams are just so scared to just drive the paint against him. They just won't go anywhere near him. It's actually ridiculous to see. Uh, you're pro he does deserve that all-star nod because it's not a coincidence that the Jazz have an amazing defense are the number one seed in the West. It's just not reflected in his stats, which I think it hurts his all-star chances. Um, just the way that they're picked, stats are
Yeah,
so important, and also he's kind of like not liked too much around the league. I don't know
yeah,
why. He's just not a very liked player. Maybe that doesn't matter because it's not fan voting that decides the
hmm,
subs. But I do agree with you that he deserves to be in there, probably. For me, okay, so on the Pelicans, you said I agree with you that Zion is the focal point. It's even more over the last 2 weeks. They've
yeah,
just become a really good offensive team, and Zion is just on an absolute tear, like you said. But they're almost 7 points worse defensively with Zion on the floor than off. Like Zion is truly one of the worst defenders in the league this year. It's and when you just watch the effort that he has, he's just a terrible defender, which none of us really expected when he was coming out of Duke. So to me, he can't even be considered as an all-star. Just his defense is so bad. He's such a one-sided, one-dimensional player. Now Ingram is not an amazing
yeah.
defender
Ingram
either.
is not a good defender. If he was an average defender, then we could have this conversation. But Ingram is as bad as a defender.
I wouldn't say
Maybe
he's as
not
bad.
statistically,
Yeah,
maybe not statistically, but when you're looking at it, people are just blowing by Ingram all the time, and that's causing Steven Adams to collapse. And like Steven Adams is carrying this defense, he's making them win the games that he wins. But it's kind of just the young guys not buying into Van Gundy's system.
yeah,
And I think when they're both bad defenders, it doesn't really matter how much they're worse at. Because if you look at Zion's stats, you said 24 for Ingram.
yeah,
Zion is also averaging 24.4, but last month he's averaging 26.1. Last 2 weeks he's averaging 25.4, and
yeah,
last week he's averaging 27.8.
yeah.
It's just a
No,
huge
he's
trend
like you
up.
said, his direction right now is just a straight up arrow, at least
Yeah.
offensively. And any improvement defensively would be a straight up arrow because, like I said, he's terrible. Like you, I agree with you. Ingram is not a good defender either. But to me, start to finish or start to current this season, he's been their most consistent offensive player. Zion has been better lately, but Ingram has just given you 24 every night, 24, 5, and 5. Uh, efficient from the field, 39% from three. He probably doesn't deserve to be an all-star, honestly, but I shouldn't say it like that. He's a deserving player. He just probably shouldn't make the cut. I just like him. I just really like watching him. I like the way he plays. I like how he takes mid-range jumpers. I just like players who do that. And to me, I just wanted to put him in there. It's probably biased. I just like him.
Yeah, and I think coaches are gonna like look at that field goal percentage too, man. Like 60% for the season for Zion. Like they're
Yeah,
at a point where it's like, yeah, we tripled this guy, but he's still gonna make that inside paint little like
yeah,
hook that he does
yeah,
6 out of 10 times, and we're
yeah,
like doubling him, tripling him. Like
yeah,
if he becomes an average defender, like we're talking about an all-star starter here.
yeah.
Like
No, we are.
that's how much the Pelicans improve because they become a playoff team if he becomes
Hmm.
an average defender. And like we're talking about an all-star starter, and he's way more entertaining. Like
Oh yeah,
highlight
no, no,
wise,
he
not
is. Yeah,
like for the
yeah,
whole entitlement of the game, but highlights, it's either Zion or LaMelo Ball. Like they're the guys who eat up the highlights. I hope he's probably not going to make the All-Star game. We know that's not, but he is a snub. I hope he goes into the dunk contest. I don't know
yeah,
how entertaining his dunks will be, but they will be powerful. And
yeah,
to do it in an empty gym, they will be loud. So I hope
yeah,
Zion is somehow still in this
yeah.
All-Star weekend.
And I think if it were up to the fans, there might be a chance for him to get in. But if it's up to coaches with the defense that he brings to the table, there's just no chance. Coaches like will not put such a one-sided player into the All-Star game over some of the guys here.
Yeah,
Okay, so I
let's
guess
go
it's
to
just the
wild
wild
card.
cards left, right? We're
Yeah,
gonna. I think we both probably have Devin Booker
yeah,
as one.
he's a lock. Yeah.
Okay, who's your other one?
This is gonna be. I think we have the same one, but I think the fans might not agree with our one. I think DeMar DeRozan is a
Let's go,
lock
DeMar
for the
DeRozan. Let's
spot.
go. Thank
Yes.
you. Okay.
He has to be. They're the sixth seed. They're 16 and 11. They're they're 5 games above the ninth seed. So they're basically a playoff lock the
Yeah.
way they're playing. And it's a lot to do with DeMar DeRozan. He's like a 19, 6, and 7 guy. Like he's impacting the game so much. Marcus Aldridge has been hurt. He has
Yeah.
been injured. Derek White's been hurt and he's been
Mm-hmm.
injured and he's just coming back. DeJounte Murray went to concussion protocol, missed a couple games. Keldon Johnson is playing amazing, probably one of the breakout years for him. And a lot of that credit has to do to Greg Popovich, obviously,
Yeah.
and DeMar DeRozan. So I think he's a lock for that spot.
Completely agree. I don't know if he's a lock, but at least like real basketball people know he's a lock.
Yeah,
Like we said, record matters so much more in the West than it does in the East. They're
yeah,
in that 6 seed right now. He's averaging 20 points, 5 rebounds, career high 7 assists. So
yeah,
he's the point guard on that team. He's the guy at the end of games closing it out. He is 49% from the field with the volume that he has. Obviously, Greg Popovich, a lot of credit goes to him. He has
yeah,
somehow figured out this Spurs roster that just didn't make any sense with the injuries that they've had.
yeah,
DeMar DeRozan has is back to being an all-star. We thought his all-star days were done when he got traded from Toronto. We said he was going to be coming into the season, we said he was going to be a six man for the rest of his career,
yeah.
or that was the best path for him, but he's going to be back in the All-Star game. He's a 20 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds guy carrying a team into playoff contention.
Yeah, and before people say we're just DeMar DeRozan fans, because we both have jerseys of him,
Yeah.
we were pretty hard on him coming into the season. I said he was going to sign for a 1 year mid-level exception with the Lakers, and I said that's the most money he's going to be offered.
Yeah.
You said his best career path is to go and be a sixth man for Giannis and win a championship that way.
Yeah.
So we both had him taking a huge pay cut, and you had him not even being a starter anymore. And he he proved to everyone, even his fans, like, hey, I can adapt to this league as long as I play a different position. He's not a shooting guard anymore.
Yeah.
He is a power forward slash small forward, and he closed out a lot of games at power forward. And in that spot, he's amazing. He's like Ben Simmons, kind of, whereas like they don't have that 3 point shot,
Yeah.
but they could still play make, they could still get the team involved, they could still rebound the ball. But DeMar has that nasty mid-range jumper, which just makes him a viable offensive threat still. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's insane.
We saw signs of this in the when the Spurs were way better than we expected in the bubble. and we're like, is this DeMar DeRozan at the 4 real? And it's just carried over to this year. They have kind of, you're able to put guards and spacers around him. You can kind of, Greg Popovich has found a way to just cover up the lack of a 3-point shot. They're winning in the West with DeMar as the best player. I'm so happy to see it. I love watching that team. Like, we both have DeMar Raptors jerseys. I'm like
It's
considering
great.
getting a Spurs jersey, but I don't know how much longer he's going to be there. We're going to
Yeah,
see. But yeah, man, I'm so happy to say he's an all-star. Someone I think is getting snubbed from his. Actually, we haven't even talked about Booker yet. Let's just
yeah.
go over Booker quick.
Fourth seed. Like
Yeah,
the Suns deserve one All Star, and it's gonna be Booker or Chris Paul. And at the end of the day, how good Chris Paul is, how much he manages the motion, offense, everything, the pace of the offense. Devin Booker is just a bucket, man. He
yeah,
just gets points, like,
yeah.
and he gets the best defender on him every single night. He's finally not getting doubled because I remember
Finally,
that famous clip where he's like, "Man, we're not doubling in open gyms. I get this all season." He's not getting doubled. They're winning.
in open
Uh,
gyms,
yeah,
pretty much,
like
no fans. But yeah,
this is amazing for him. And Chris Paul might take some votes away from him. I hope at least one of them get in because
yeah.
it'll be a crime if they both just take
Oh no,
votes away from each other
yeah,
and they both don't go in because they both take them away from each other. But yeah, it should be Booker or Chris Paul. We both leaned Booker because of the points. If the coaches lean Chris Paul, I'm not totally against it,
no,
but I think it has to be one of them.
I agree. And I think if you gave this another 2-3 weeks, I actually think Booker could have overtaken Mitchell.
Yeah.
M-
Oh,
I
Mitchell.
actually the stat
I don't know
was
about that.
he's averaging pretty much the same stats with better efficiency, and Booker was averaging like 20 or 22 for the first up until 2 weeks ago. And over
Yeah,
the last 2 weeks, it looks like they're finally starting to have that chemistry on the Suns. They're winning a lot. He's 28, 29, 30 every night. The efficiency is a lot better. I think within the next 3 weeks, we're going to see that scoring number go up to be like a 26 a game, 26 and a half a game versus Mitchell's 24 with 43% from the field. And I think that maybe would have put him over Mitchell, but I mean, that doesn't
they're
really
both all
matter.
stars.
They're
Yeah,
both all stars. And yeah, Booker or Chris Paul. I would like to see Booker just because I mean, it'd be awesome
younger.
to see Chris Paul be an all star at his age, but also at Booker, I just want to see that career trajectory just keep going up.
Yeah,
But yeah, okay, so I think, in my opinion, the biggest snub, well, the most unfortunate non All Star selection is CJ McCollum, but obviously he's not going to be one. He's just missed like almost the whole season. But De'Aaron Fox is 23-7. He has the Kings like in the 10 seed, which is actually an accomplishment in the West this year. I think he's had a really good year. I can see some people putting him over DeMar DeRozan, probably even over Brandon Ingram, who I have in the All Star game. Uh, but yeah, what are your thoughts on De'Aaron Fox?
yeah. De'Aaron Fox is playing amazing, and as much as I don't want it to see it happen, he probably will get in over DeMar DeRozan
Yeah,
just because the stats are better, and we obviously rewarded winning. But De'Aaron Fox will probably get in. His stats have been amazing. The only reason I dogged De'Aaron Fox is because that winning is still not there. But this team is like
his
so bad.
Tyreese Halliburton is his second best player, a rookie.
And it's like by far Tyreese Halliburton's second
Yeah,
best player. Like him versus Buddy Hield is a pretty big difference. And Buddy Hield and Harrison Barnes have been decent this year. I'm not saying like they're bad NBA players by any
yeah,
means, but like Buddy Hields and Harrison Barnes being your third, fourth best player, and your fifth best player being Rashard Holmes, and after that, not really having a sixth best player,
yeah,
like it's hard to win games out in the West. So yeah, I think
yeah.
De'Aaron Fox,
No,
DeMar DeRozan is gonna be close.
yeah.
It's
And I'm gonna
record
be
versus
honest. I'm
bench.
surprised. I'm surprised that Luke Walton has not lost his job yet. I thought
Yeah,
that should have maybe happened even before the season, and I was sure that it was going to happen maybe even pre All Star break. I don't even know if it's going to happen at any point this season, but I think it should. Uh, but yeah, De'Aaron Fox probably will get an over DeMar DeRozan. I don't even know if he's more of a fan favorite. I think a lot of people. I don't know.
yeah,
I really want to see DeMar get in there, and it's not even just us that I hear saying that he deserves it.
yeah.
Other people who are not Raptors fans, who are not even Spurs fans, are just talking about the low
The
key
winning.
winning that he is impacting on
Yeah,
that team, and it's just amazing to see. I hope and pray that he gets in.
yeah. And another player that obviously is not going to get in because he missed so much time is Karl-Anthony Towns.
Yeah.
And I just want to see, like, does this add to Karl-Anthony Towns? I want to get out of here because they're
Mm,
7-20. They sucked last year enough to get the first pick. They kind of suck this year.
yeah.
Like, he's not getting all-star nods in the West.
Yeah.
Is he like, hey, man, yes, D'Angelo Russell is my best friend, but I want to go play out east, or just I want to go play with another young star
Hmm.
like Trey Young or someone like that. And can we really see Karl-Anthony Towns getting traded sometime soon?
I I don't know. The thing is, how many games, like actually, how many
He's
games
missed a
has he
lot.
played? Have they played together? Russell and Towns. Is it
I think,
under 10?
yeah, it's under 10, even though it's been like 2 seasons.
Yeah, like it's
Yeah,
insane. We have not even seen like on paper. It's like, oh, nice. You get a pick and roll of Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell who can both shoot, and you got
yeah,
Anthony Edwards attacking like off rotations and everything. That sounds pretty good. Doesn't sound good defensively, but they haven't even
yeah.
been good offensively. I hope we get to at least at
See
some
them.
point this season see that team. But for him, yeah, maybe just this constant losing, the constant like just lack of energy on the floor for that team maybe contributes to him asking out. He, it's between him and Bradley Beal, in my opinion, for the next stars that are going
Star
to ask
out.
for trades and are going to be traded. But yeah, it's a good point. We'll have to see.
And a player that's playing amazing, not really all-star. Like, he's not going to make the all-star game, but he's going to be talked about as an all-star snub, and that's Shea. Shea has been
Yeah,
playing
Shea,
amazing. And Shea has a couple close losses where, man, if they won those
they do.
games
Yeah,
and they were like 13 and like 13 and 13, or like 13 and like 12,
yeah,
like that Shea might be a lock. And that sucks that it's only like those couple losses,
yeah,
those three games, where if Al Horford maybe played those games, they win. Yeah, but Shea, he's
yeah,
proving it's a nice upward trajectory because he wasn't in the conversation last year. He's in the conversation now.
yeah.
And next year, I think we all expect him to kind of take that jump and take that all-star spot.
That's the hope. But I mean, Steph, Dame, Luka, Mitchell, Booker aren't going anywhere. So it
DeMar
basically
DeRozan
just
might be though.
DeMar DeRozan
Yeah,
maybe. But yeah, Shea for me is on that level of Fox. He's like
yeah,
not winning enough, but he has really good stats, and they're winning more than definitely
expected.
more than we expected them to. Yeah, Shea's been having an amazing year. Don't really know what else to say about him.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for him. I just wanted to mention him because he was Canadian from Hamilton too.
Yeah, talk about another Canadian, not an all star, but Lou Dort is kind of
All defensive, all defensive
like
first team.
yeah, all defensive. If we do make our picks for those all defensive teams, he right now has to be on it,
Yeah,
along with Ben
easily.
Simmons, the guy we talked about, and Rudy Gobert. But yeah, yeah, that team is a lot more fun than I thought they would be. Like so many, like they have so many guys that like I barely even heard of that are just playing huge minutes for them. Like Alexei Pokashevsky
Pavlovsky.
plays a lot for them, and
Yeah,
it's pretty fun to watch. But yeah, I
that's pretty
think
much it.
I think we went over every snub and every All Star selection. Thank you everyone for listening to our takes on the East and West All Star teams. I hope you agree with our DeMar DeRozan take. If you disagree with everything else but agree with DeMar DeRozan,
That's
that
all
is
we care
all I
about.
care about.
Yeah,
We will be back next week to talk more NBA. But until then, thank you for listening. And you can check us out on YouTube, STF Clips. Like, subscribe there. Follow us on Instagram at Stretch the Floor Podcast. You can like, subscribe, and review, and rate this podcast. It helps with the algorithm and all that stuff. And we will see you guys next week.